Walt and Jesse cooked meth for over a year directly above two dead bodies, and they never had a clue. One was a charismatic happy evil, or whatever he was, killed by Gus Fring. The other was a respected lawyer shot in the head inside Jimmy McGill's own apartment. Better Call Saul hid all of that underneath Breaking Bad's most iconic set and never said a word about it. Here is every way Better Call Saul secretly changed Breaking Bad forever. Two names, two characters, one line. Let's start with the moment that sparked everything. In Breaking Bad Season 2, Episode 8, the episode literally titled Better Call Saul, Walt and Jesse kidnap Saul Goodman and drag him to the desert at gunpoint. Saul hits his knees, convinced he's about to die, and starts panicking out loud.
No, it wasn't me, it was Ignacio, he's the one!
Then, a beat later,
Lalo didn't send you? No, Lalo!
When Breaking Bad aired in 2009, that was nothing. A throwaway moment. Two random names designed to imply that Saul had a complicated criminal history before Walt came along. The writers never planned anything beyond that. Ignacio and Lalo were flavor text. Background noise to make Saul feel lived in. Then Better Call Saul happened. The showrunners looked at those two names sitting in a single panicked line of dialogue from 2009, and instead of ignoring them, they built entire human beings around them. Ignacio became Ignacio Nacho Varga, one of the most genuinely tragic characters in the whole franchise. A smart, loyal, deeply conflicted man caught between the cartel and Gus Fring's operation, who ultimately chose to die on his own terms rather than let either side win. And Lalo became Lalo Salamanca. Charming, brilliant, terrifying, and widely considered one of the greatest TV villains of the last decade. Two characters who, between them, carry some of the heaviest emotional and dramatic weight in Better Call Saul both came from a single throwaway moment that was never meant to mean anything. And then Better Call Saul does something even more interesting with it. When you go back and watch that desert kidnapping scene after finishing Better Call Saul, the whole thing hits differently. Because by the time Breaking Bad's events take place, both Nacho and Lalo are already dead. Saul is invoking the names of two ghosts, and the way his voice breaks when he asks,
Lalo didn't send you? No, Lalo!
The sheer relief when Walt and Jesse say nothing tells you everything about what those names meant to him. That wasn't a random criminal dropping names to seem connected. That was a traumatized man checking whether his nightmare had come back for him. One line, two characters, a decade of meaning that wasn't there when it was first written. The Super Lab has bodies in the floor. Guys, this one is genuinely dark, and it changes every single Super Lab scene in Breaking Bad in a way that cannot be undone once you know it. In Breaking Bad, the Super Lab is introduced as a symbol of Gus Fring's power and Walter White's arrival into the big time. Clean, state-of-the-art, built underground beneath a laundromat. When Walt and Jesse first walk into it, the whole thing feels like a milestone. They've made it. They're playing at a different level now. Better Call Saul shows you what it took to build that lab. Gus hired a team of German engineers led by Werner Siegler, with Mike overseeing security. The construction took months, strained relationships, and ultimately costed Werner his life. Mike had to shoot him when Werner became a security risk that couldn't be managed any other way. It was one of the heaviest moments in Better Call Saul because Mike genuinely liked him. It wasn't cruelty, it was just the inevitable cost of the world Mike had walked into. But it gets darker. When Lalo Salamanca is finally killed by Gus in the Super Lab in the Season 6 finale, his body doesn't just disappear. Mike and his crew bury Lalo beneath the Super Lab floor, right next to Howard Hamlin, who Lalo had shot in the head in Jimmy and Kim's apartment earlier that same season. So now go back to every Breaking Bad Super Lab scene. Walt and Jesse cooking, Gil taking notes, the tasting sessions, the arguments, all of it happened directly above the bodies of two men. One who was a genuinely decent guy trying to do right by Kim and Jimmy, and one who was one of the most dangerous people in the entire story. Buried together beneath the floor while Walter White walks back and forth above them talking about chemistry. Better Call Saul turned the Super Lab from a symbol of power into a gravesite, and it did it so quietly that Breaking Bad itself never had to change a single frame. Mike was never just a fixer. In Breaking Bad, Mike Ehrmantraut is introduced as Saul's guy. He cleans things up, follows people, and he's efficient, dry, and almost comically competent. The show gives him a few moments of depth, but for most of its run he's a supporting character defined primarily by his function. The guy who makes problems go away. Better Call Saul completely dismantles that. By the time BCS is done with Mike, you know everything. You know he was a Philadelphia cop, you know his son Matty was also a cop who refused to take bribes, and that two corrupt officers Mike had vouched for killed Matty because of it. You know Mike then manipulated those same officers into trusting him, lured them separately, and killed them both. You know he moved to Albuquerque to be near his daughter-in-law Stacy and his granddaughter Kaylee, and that every dollar he ever made working for Gus was put away for them. And you know that Mike hated himself for most of it. He told Jesse Pinkman in Breaking Bad, in what fans at the time took as a throwaway character moment, that he made a choice and then spent the rest of his life living with it. After Better Call Saul, that line lands like a weight, because you've seen the choice. You've watched him make it in real time, step by step, job by job, each one pulling him further in until there was no realistic way out. Mike in Breaking Bad does the same things, but the quiet sadness underneath every scene, the way he looks at Jesse, the way he talks about family, the wariness behind every job, all of it means something completely different now. He's not just a fixer, he's a man who genuinely tried to be good and couldn't find his way back to it. Hector's bell has a whole history. In Breaking Bad, Hector Salamanca sits in his wheelchair at the nursing home, ringing a bell to communicate. He's a presence, menacing even in total incapacitation, eyes full of hatred whenever Gus walks into the room. The show tells you they have bad history, but it doesn't dig into it. Hector is mostly a tool for the plot leading to Gus's death. Better Call Saul fills in every blank. It shows you Hector in his prime, loud, violent, commanding, and genuinely powerful within the cartel. It shows you the years of mutual contempt between him and Gus, and most importantly, it shows you exactly how he ended up in that wheelchair. Nacho Varga secretly swapped Hector's heart medication for placebos. The weakened medication caused Hector to suffer a massive stroke right in front of the middle of a confrontation, which made it look like a natural event. The stroke destroyed Hector's body but left his mind intact, which Gus made sure of by arranging the specific medical care that kept him alive and aware, trapped in a chair, unable to speak, completely aware of everything. And then Lalo gave him the bell. So every time that bell rings in Breaking Bad, every time Hector locks eyes with Gus and rings it to just watch him react, you're watching the results of a year-long deliberate act of cruelty that Gus engineered specifically to make Hector suffer as long as possible. The bell isn't just a communication tool, it's the symbol of everything Gus took from Hector, and Hector knows it. And Gus knows Hector knows it. The dynamic was always there in Breaking Bad. Better Call Saul just showed you the foundation underneath it. Saul Goodman is actually tragic. This is the biggest one, and it's the one that the entire prequel was really built around. In Breaking Bad, Saul Goodman is a comic character, brilliantly written, endlessly entertaining, but ultimately comic. He's the strip mall lawyer with the inflatable Statue of Liberty and the sleazy commercials and the fast talk. He's funny and he serves the plot, but he doesn't carry weight the way Walt or Jesse do, because the show never gives you enough of his interior life to make him truly tragic. Better Call Saul gives you everything. You watch Jimmy McGill before the transformation. Genuinely funny, genuinely caring, capable of real loyalty and real love. You watch his relationship with Chuck, the brother who built a career on being better than him and never let him forget it. You watch him fall in love with Kim Wexler in a way that feels completely real. You watch him pass the bar exam against genuine odds, try to build a legitimate practice, get knocked down repeatedly, and choose each time to stand back up, until the choices he made to stand back up started costing him pieces of himself. By the time Breaking Bad begins, you know what Saul Goodman is running from. You know that the jokes and the suits and the showmanship are a costume over someone who got hurt badly and decided that feeling nothing was safer than feeling too much. Every comical Saul Goodman moment in Breaking Bad now has a shadow behind it. When he quips, you can hear the deflection. When he pushes Walt and Jesse toward dangerous choices, you understand that this is a man who stopped being able to see consequences for himself a long time ago. And the ex-wife jokes.
I caught my second wife screwing my stepdad, okay?
The casual dismissals land completely differently when you know about Kim. When you know that the woman who he loved most walked out of his life because of what he had become. The jokes aren't really just jokes. They're a man making himself laugh so he doesn't have to feel the real thing. Better Call Saul didn't just add backstory to Saul Goodman. It retroactively turned a comedic supporting character into one of the saddest figures in the whole franchise. The Cinnabon. And then there's the detail that ties the whole thing together. In Breaking Bad Season 4, in the middle of a tense scene, Saul Goodman tells Walt,
"If I'm lucky, a month from now, best case scenario, I'm managing a Cinnabon in Omaha."
It was a throwaway joke, one of dozens of offhand Saul lines that made the audience laugh and moved the scene along. Better Call Saul opens with exactly that. Saul Goodman, now Gene Takovic, managing a Cinnabon in Omaha, in black and white, alone. The joke that was never supposed to mean anything became the entire frame of the prequel series. The writers took a single comedic line from a 2011 episode and built the opening image of a 6-season television show around it. That's the real answer to how Better Call Saul changed Breaking Bad forever. It didn't change facts, it didn't retcon the plot, it just kept looking at the parts of Breaking Bad that nobody was supposed to look at too closely, and it found entire worlds inside them. A throwaway line became 2 iconic characters. A cool set became a gravesite, a comic sidekick became a tragedy, and a throwaway joke about fast food became the first image you see when the show begins. That's not just a good prequel, that's a show that made its source material permanently richer just by existing. But what do you think? Does Better Call Saul make Breaking Bad better, or does knowing too much take something away from the original? Drop it in the comments, and the next video is right there. Don't miss it.